Now, the controversial group Operation Dudula has shifted its focus from public healthcare facilities to the classroom, launching a new campaign under the banner of Put South African Child First. The group is calling for public schools to prioritize South African learners over foreign nationals. The campaign has raised concerns among education activists as well as legal experts who warn that it could lead to fear as well as instability in our schools. Joining us to discuss this is the Gauteng Education MEC, Matome Chiloane. Mr. Chiloane, thank you so much for the time, MEC. Appreciate it. Is that your sense, that it could lead to security, safety, and instability concerns around schooling? Good morning.
Good morning, good morning to your viewers. Of course, it is a concern because, as you know, what happened in the hospitals. But however, I want to send a very strong warning to the organization that disruptions of schools will not be tolerated. And I would advise that they go and familiarize themselves with the Bella Act around disruptions and the implications thereof of schools. That is the biggest concern that we're having. But however, where we're sitting, we want to also assure the public, in particular the residents of Gauteng, that what is being said is not actually true, where South African children have been put aside, discarded for children of foreign nationals. There is no such evidence thereof, and we can, at any way that we can be able to provide any information to any interested party or on facts, numbers, and what are the realities of our schools.
Yeah. MEC, I'd like to then unpack one aspect, and you've made two known there, but one, you said it won't be tolerated, any disturbance and disruptions of schools. Does that mean you'd be looking at greater security or looking at law enforcement or legal proceedings if any of this was to disrupt schooling?
Of course, we look at, depending on the situation, but what I'm saying now is that I would want to advise Dudula to desist on their proposed action, of which will ultimately disrupt schools. They need to, as an NGO, which I believe they can play a role in assisting, to get our schools, support our schools, but in the sense of disruption, they should know that as a department, we will not hold back with regard to disruption of teaching and learning.
Yeah.
And their concerns of that the South African child is being cast aside is not true. I have to put it here unequivocally.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not true at all.
Yeah. Then let me ask then just about what the law says about undocumented foreign nationals, school children, and attending school, particularly in South Africa. What does the law actually say around that?
There was a court order that is the one that actually, because it was actually led by firstly the Eastern Cape government, provincial education, of which the court said any child of school-going age must be admitted to schools. So it's a court order. However, from our side within the province, for instance, in our admission process, we're saying, in fact, what we are doing, we said parents who have complied, meaning they've supplied all the documents, are first to be placed. When we're done with that, then we'll deal with those incomplete applications, and general incomplete applications are those that don't have documents. So this notion that we start with undocumented over documented is not there. We start with completed application, meaning schools, when they do administrative placement, they'll always start with those that have complied documentally to place and then deal with undocumented. And that's how we've been doing it across the province since. So this notion that we start with these ones and we discuss this one is not there.
So, but it is true in essence that undocumented foreign national children are still attending school in the country. It just depends on which aspect and where. And that means that you don't have documentation for these young ones, unfortunately.
Yes, and obviously, and also it's not say undocumented are only for kids of foreign nationals. No, even South Africa, there are children who still don't have documentation of South African origin, born in this country. So that is cut across.
Yeah.
But however, the disadvantage is that if you are not documented, you will not, your child will not start with you. Will start with those that comply first.
Yeah.
For placement, and then deal with the other children.
Would you be looking to have a sit down with Operation Dudula to explain the situation at the very least and provide some sort of answers, not just to them, but really nationwide? And I know you're doing that even on this platform, but obviously very important to kind of send out a clear message of how this works and entails. And then just very quickly, Home Affairs needs to get involved, surely.
Yes, well, within our placement, our system is linked to Home Affairs. And I have to say, we do have a very good relations with Home Affairs within our system. So we're able to connect immediately in real time to get the necessary information around the children. Secondly, with regard to meeting Dudula, yes, I'm open to meeting them and any other stakeholder of interest. And that's what we do. We meet them, we speak to them, we clarify. Because ultimately, education is big, and we want all hands on deck. We want everybody to be work with our schools, support our schools, make sure that our schools are effective in teaching and learning, and they're safe spaces, and that's important. So we can't do it alone. We do need progressive stakeholders to work with us. So amongst those, Dudula is welcome to meet with me.
Is there also a plan to help families and of undocumented children, particularly to get the documents that they need for schooling?
And that is not done by us. I mean, ultimately, the documentation is a Home Affairs matter. We don't really get really involved, but we do advise and push these parents to go and get their children documented. And the big risk is ultimately when these kids get to grade 12, they do get their certificate, but it doesn't have any form of identification. It just have the number of the student, and sometimes it's not enough. So ultimately, the child gets disadvantaged at the end of their primary or basic education. So we always advise that parents must pursue across, and we also push them as schools as well, that they need to go and get these documentations, get their kids documented properly.
There'll obviously be fear of bullying, trauma, learners being hurt in some kind of ways as well. Is there going to be a need from your department to protect those undocumented and foreign learners because of any of that might happen? Would there be a concerted effort to at least make this aware to all those schools?
Look, bullying is not tolerated in our school whatsoever. It's a big issue in our schools, and we're dealing with, and we are very decisive. I mean, I've told schools that we have to be decisive in acting against bullies for whatever reason. As to that they are being bullied, so far I've not had any fundamental issue that has come forward to my attention. Like children who are being bullied by virtue of them being undocumented or of foreign origin.
Yeah.
I've not heard that, but if there are those particular cases, I would urge schools to really act on it, because bullying is not allowed entirely in our school.
Yeah. Look, ABC, I mean, prevention is better than cure, and we don't want to end up with a similar situation that we had in healthcare, where unfortunately Grace Banda, should I say, a Malawian national, who took her sick baby to Alexandra, then couldn't do so, and the baby having passed away, and that was all blamed on Operation Dudula. So I would imagine that you'd want to prevent it more than you'd want to, deal with it after it's happened.
Well, the advocacy that we do around bullying is across. It's not to say don't bully a child of foreign origin. It's not that, no. We run an advocacy program around bullying in general, entirely, because we have a big problem with bullying. Yeah. And largely is not related to xenophobia. It's just generally bullies kids who are the bigger children bullying the smaller children. So this is what we're dealing with. So when we bully, we just tell them that any form of a violation of any child's right or any peer's right will not be tolerated. And bullies, we act on them decisively. We expel them from our schools.
Yeah. All right. MEC, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for joining us on air here and helping us with that. I think it's just great concern that it could be discriminatory to so many as well in the country. So we certainly hope that the situation does get cleared very soon, that